All right, get ready, because today we are going deep into the world of, like, analyzing people.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
I like it.
So our guide for this deep dive is Michael Draper's How to Analyze People.
Very cool.
Now, I don't want you to think that we're going to come out of this being, like, master manipulators or anything.
Right. Not puppet masters.
Yeah, exactly. Not puppet masters, no. But this is more about just giving you the tools to have better relationships and to communicate better with people.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to get into some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's body language secrets. There's this whole concept of the 6 human needs that kind of drive behavior.
Yes.
And then there's this model called the drama triangle, which I'm not going to lie, when I first heard about that, I was like, what? But it's
They're not
actually,
easy.
it is juicy. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that Draper talked about that I find really interesting is that in order to analyze other people effectively, you really have to start with understanding yourself.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I would think we would just jump right into, like, reading other people's body language.
Yeah, right.
What they're wearing, how they're,
All the external stuff.
Exactly, all the external stuff. So why the emphasis on self-awareness first?
Well, because, we all view the world through our own lens, right?
Right.
We have our own experiences and biases that have shaped how we see things.
Right.
And so if we're not aware of those filters, we risk kind of projecting those onto other people,
Oh,
which can really distort our perception of them.
I see what you're saying. So it's kind of like if I'm walking around always afraid that people are judging me,
Yes.
then I might assume that everyone else is also judging me, even if they're not.
Exactly. You're going to see judgment everywhere,
Everywhere.
even when it's not there.
Right, even if it's not there. So how do we kind of start to become more aware of our own, I guess, biases?
Yeah, well, Draper has this great exercise where he says, think about how you act around different people. Like, think about how you act around your boss versus how you act around your best friend.
Totally different.
Right. And so we do that naturally. We adapt
Oh, yeah.
to the people around us.
Right.
But the thing is, recognizing that we do that can help us see how other people are adapting as well.
So it's like, in order to be a good people reader,
Yeah.
you kind of have to be aware of how you yourself are coming across.
It's your own tells.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, I like that. So now this actually ties into what Anthony Robbins, the motivational speaker, talks about.
Oh, Robbins.
Yes, Robbins and Draper in one deep dive.
Double the knowledge.
I know, right? So he talks about the 3 elements of practical psychology. So what's that all about?
Well, the first element that Robbins talks about is fear.
Okay.
And he emphasizes that fear is a major driving force in our lives, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
So this could be fear of failure, fear of rejection.
Fear of inadequacy.
Yes, fear of inadequacy, all of those things.
Fear of spiders.
Well, maybe not spiders, but...
Okay, all right, fair enough.
But those deeper fears, those core fears.
Okay.
And it's often subconscious. We're not even aware of it.
Right.
But it's influencing so much of our behavior.
So fear can be a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
But, like, sometimes it can push you forward, sometimes it holds you back, right?
Double-edged sword.
Yeah. And then the second element Robbins talks about is how we assign meaning to events.
Okay.
So the same exact situation can be interpreted in completely different ways
Okay.
by different people, right? And that often comes down to those filters we were talking about.
Totally. Like, okay, if a friend cancels plans last minute,
Yes.
one person might be like, okay, no big deal. They must be busy. But then another person might think, oh my gosh, they hate me. What did I do?
Exactly.
Same situation.
Same situation, totally different meaning.
Totally different meaning. And that's all based on...
Well, he says it's based on 3 things, primarily. Body language, the language that's used, and focus. So everybody's kind of walking around with their own little translator of the world in their head.
I love that analogy.
It's true, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same situation, but 2 people could see it totally differently.
Absolutely. And then the third element that Robbins talks about, and this kind of comes back to Draper as well, is the 6 human needs.
Okay, Robbins, Annie Draper, again, in one. Okay, so tell me about these 6 human needs.
All right, so these are like the core ingredients of what motivates us as humans.
Okay.
We all have them, but we prioritize them differently, and that's what makes us unique.
Okay, so what are these needs? Give me the rundown.
So the first one is certainty,
Certainty.
which is the need for comfort, security, and avoiding pain.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. We all crave some level of stability and predictability.
Exactly.
Okay, the second need might sound a little contradictory,
Okay.
but it's uncertainty or variety.
Oh, so we need a little bit of both.
We do, because too much predictability is boring, right?
Yeah, it's boring. We need some spice in life.
We need some spice.
Okay, so certainty, uncertainty, what else?
The third need is significance.
Significance?
And this is about feeling important, valued, and unique.
Oh.
It's tied to our self-esteem and how we see ourselves in the world.
Right.
And how we want to be seen.
Right.
So some people might seek significance through achievement.
Yeah.
While others might look for it through, even negative attention.
Oh, okay.
Right. Even if it's negative, they're still getting that sense of importance.
Still attention.
It's still attention.
So that's really interesting to think about. Okay, so we have certainty, uncertainty, significance.
What else could there be?
I know, right? It's a lot. What else?
Okay, the fourth need is love and connection.
Okay.
This is about that desire to belong, to feel loved and accepted by others, right?
Humans are social creatures, so...
We are.
Yeah.
We need connection.
We're wired for it.
Exactly.
Okay, the fifth need is growth.
Growth.
This is about expanding our capabilities.
Okay.
Learning new things, setting goals. So like personal development kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whether it's, tangible skills or just becoming more self-aware.
Right, right.
That's all growth.
Okay.
Okay. And the final need, the sixth need, is contribution.
Contribution.
And this ties into both significance and growth.
Yeah.
Because it's about making a difference in the world.
Okay, yeah, like giving back to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
Right. So we've got certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution.
That's a mouthful.
It's like a whole human needs buffet.
It is. It is.
Right. And the key, like you said, is to kind of figure out for each person which ones they put at the top.
Which ones are their top priorities.
Of their list.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, now I think you mentioned earlier that Draper gives an example of a couple who kind of butt heads because of this.
He does.
What was their names? Lisa and John. Lisa and John. Okay, so what was their deal?
Well, the situation is that Lisa's mother gets really sick, and she lives in another state.
Okay.
And so Lisa wants to move to be closer to her mom.
Of course.
To help out. And John is trying to convince her to stay.
Classic relationship dilemma, right?
Classic, yeah.
Yeah. It's like family versus the relationship. So how do those 6 needs play into this?
Well, so Lisa is prioritizing contribution.
Okay.
And love and connection, right? She wants to take care of her mom.
Right. Of course.
To be there for her family.
Right.
But John might be prioritizing certainty.
Okay.
And significance. He's comfortable with their current life.
Right.
And maybe feels like his role as a partner is being threatened if she leaves.
Oh, so it's like a clash of those needs.
A clash of needs, yes.
Right. Because they're both valid, they're both important.
They are.
But it creates that conflict.
It does, yeah.
All right, so that's a great example. But before we dive into more of that,
okay,
I kind of want to go back to body language for a sec.
Yes, let's do it.
Because that's like the classic people analyzing technique.
It is. And Draper actually has a term for it. He calls it body language leaks.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Body language leaks. So it's like these little nonverbal cues that we give off that tell other people what we're actually feeling.
Yes, even if our words are saying something different.
Oh, I see. So it's like when someone says, oh yeah, I'm so excited about this project, but then their shoulders are slumped and they won't make eye contact.
What a leak.
That's a leak.
Yes.
Okay, so what are some other body language leaks that we should be looking out for?
Well, one that Draper talks about is pupil dilation.
Pupil dilation.
Yeah, did you know that your pupils can actually dilate?
Like when the cops shine a flashlight in your eyes?
Yes, exactly like that. But it can also happen in response to, like, arousal or fear or other intense emotions.
Oh, wow. So it's a subconscious thing.
It is. It's involuntary.
Okay.
So it can be a pretty reliable indicator.
So, like, if you see someone's pupils getting bigger...
Yeah, pay attention.
That means something's up.
Something's happening, yeah.
Okay, what else? What else?
Well, there's also eye movement.
Eye movement.
Yeah. Like looking upward, for example, can sometimes be a sign of boredom.
Okay.
But if it's paired with a certain head tilt, it could actually be like a flirty cue.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm starting to realize there's so much more to body language than I thought.
There's so many nuances.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's also a little overwhelming because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to start paying attention to all these things now.
Well, and it's important to keep in mind, too, that while these cues can be helpful, it's also important to consider cultural differences.
Right.
Because what might be considered confident in one culture could be seen as aggressive in another culture, so we don't want to jump to conclusions.
Right. So it's not just about one single cue.
It's about the whole picture.
It's about seeing everything together.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we've got body language leaks, but then you also mentioned that there are other things.
Other clues. Yep.
Like someone's taste, their habits, their Was it social circle, I think?
Yes, there's social circle.
Yeah. Okay, but isn't it a little, like, superficial to judge somebody based on,
It can be.
like,
Yes.
what kind of music they like or what they're wearing?
It can be, yeah. If you're solely relying on appearances,
Yeah.
then yeah, that's not a very accurate way to assess someone.
Right.
But when you combine those things with other observations,
Okay.
it can add more layers of understanding.
Okay, so it's not like I'm just going to judge you based on the band on your T-shirt.
Right, right.
But if I see that, and then I also see how you behave and how you interact with other people.
Yeah, it all starts to add up.
Then it becomes part of the picture.
Exactly.
Okay. So what are some examples of, like, how those things might play out? Like the music thing, for example.
Well, Draper talks about a study that was done on music preferences.
Okay.
And they found that people who listen to rock and metal, who are often stereotyped as aggressive, are actually more likely to be gentle and introverted.
Really? That's so interesting. So
Yeah.
that kind of breaks the stereotype, right?
It does, it does.
What about other music genres? Did they say anything about, like, rap and hip-hop?
Yeah, they found that people who listen to rap and hip-hop tend to have high self-esteem,
Okay, cool.
which, again, kind of breaks down some stereotypes
Yeah.
that are out there.
Right, so music choices can be a little window into someone's personality.
Yeah, a little peek.
Okay.
But again, just one piece of the puzzle.
Right, exactly. And then the social circle thing.
Right.
So the idea that you are the company you keep.
Yes.
So if I want to understand you better,
Yeah.
I should also look at who your friends are.
Your close friends, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Because it can reveal a lot about your values,
Right.
even if you're trying to project something different.
Interesting.
So it's a good reminder to pay attention to who people surround themselves with,
Yeah,
because it can be very telling.
totally. So we've got body language leaks. We've got those 6 human needs,
Yes.
which, by the way, I'm dying to get back to Lisa and John.
Yes. Their story gets good.
But first, I need you to, like, remind me what those 6 human needs were again, because my brain is already on overload.
All right, no problem.
All right, so we've got certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth, and contribution.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
Yes.
And we're trying to figure out which ones people prioritize.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lisa and John, remind me what happened with them and how did this all come crashing down?
So Lisa's mom is sick in another state, and Lisa wants to move to be closer to her.
Right.
John doesn't want her to go. And this is where those needs come in.
Okay.
So Lisa, she's prioritizing contribution
Right, being there for her mom.
and love and connection. She wants to take care of her mom.
Right, and be there for her family.
But John, on the other hand, is probably prioritizing certainty.
Okay.
He likes the life they have.
Right.
He's comfortable, and maybe his need for significance is coming into play.
How so?
Well, maybe he feels like if Lisa leaves, his role as a partner is being diminished somehow. Right. So it's a clash of those needs.
It's like they both have valid needs.
They do,
Right.
but they're in conflict.
They are in conflict.
And it creates tension in the relationship.
Totally. All right. I am very invested in Lisa and John's journey right now.
It's a good one.
So we are going to have to pick that up next time.
will.
But for now, I think it's a good place to take a break.
Okay, sounds good.
So we'll be back to talk more about people analyzing
More to come.
and how to decipher those needs and all those other fascinating things that we talked about.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So until next time.
Bye for now.
Bye. All right. So welcome back to our deep dive into people analyzing.
Yes, we're back.
We're back. We left off talking about those 6 human needs.
We did.
And how they kind of like shape our behavior, how they play out in relationships.
Yes, and how those different ego states,
Right.
the parent, the adult, the child, can show up in our communication.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and now I think you also teased that we were going to get into Claude Steiner's
Yes.
stroke economy.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, which sounds very, I don't know.
It sounds a little technical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds kind of like, I don't know, like a financial term or something.
Right. But it's actually a pretty simple concept once you break it down.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Okay, so Steiner took this idea of strokes from Eric Bernet,
Okay.
who we talked about with the ego states.
Right, right. And these strokes are basically units of recognition.
Yes, exactly.
So it could be a compliment, it could be a gesture of appreciation,
Mhm.
even just like a simple acknowledgement.
Yes, anything that makes you feel seen and acknowledged.
Okay, and Steiner says we all need those strokes to thrive.
We do. It's like food for our emotional well-being.
Okay, so this is starting to make sense now.
Good, good. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
If we don't get enough positive strokes,
Uh-oh.
we might unconsciously seek out negative ones.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. Have you ever known someone who's always complaining?
Oh, yeah.
Or picking fights, or just generally being negative?
Yeah, totally.
Well, they might actually be craving attention,
Even if it's bad attention.
even if it's negative, because it's better than being ignored.
So it's like fulfilling that need for significance that we talked about.
Exactly. They're getting that sense of importance, even if it's in a dysfunctional way.
Right, right. So how do we avoid falling into that trap? How do we make sure we're getting enough positive strokes?
Well, Steiner outlines these 5 rules that if you follow them,
Okay.
you're pretty much guaranteeing misery.
5 rules for misery. All right, lay them on me.
Okay, so one of the rules is don't ask for the strokes you need.
Okay.
And a lot of people struggle with this, right?
Yeah.
We're afraid of seeming needy or vulnerable,
Right.
so we suffer in silence instead of just coming out and saying what we need.
Oh, totally.
Like we think, oh, they should just know.
Yeah, like they should just sense it.
Yes, but the reality is people aren't mind readers.
Yeah. No, that's...
So we have to communicate our needs directly.
Okay, so how do we do that? Because I know, like a lot of people, myself included sometimes, it can feel really awkward to just be like, hey, can you give me a compliment?
Right. It does take courage and it takes vulnerability.
Yeah.
But the key is to be clear and direct.
Okay.
So instead of, hoping someone will just magically figure out what you need,
Yeah.
just try expressing it openly and honestly.
So, like, if I'm feeling unappreciated, instead of just, like, sitting there and stewing in it,
Yes.
I could say something like, hey, I've been working really hard on this project, and it would mean a lot to me if you would acknowledge my efforts.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yes, just put it out there.
Okay, that's good advice.
And you might be surprised how receptive people are.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we've talked about those ego states. We've talked about this stroke economy. Now, what about those drama triangles that you mentioned? Remind me what those are all about.
Okay, so Cartman's drama triangle, it's a model that illustrates these dysfunctional relationship patterns. And it's visually represented as a triangle.
Okay.
And it's got these 3 roles: persecutor, victim, and rescuer.
So not like a love triangle.
Not a love triangle, no.
But it can still create a lot of drama
Oh, absolutely.
in our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, so remind me what each of those roles looks like. Like in real life, how do they play out?
Okay, so the persecutor, they're controlling, they're blaming,
Okay.
they need to feel superior.
Okay.
So they're often criticizing, judging, dictating how things should be.
That sounds a little bit like the parent ego state, actually.
Yeah, there are definitely some connections there.
Okay.
And then you have the victim,
The victim.
who feels helpless, blames others for their problems, and needs to be rescued.
So they're not taking responsibility?
No, not at all. They're playing the poor me card.
Right, right.
And then you have the rescuer,
Rescuer.
who comes in seemingly trying to help.
But isn't that a good thing?
Well, it can be.
Okay.
But in the drama triangle, the rescuer is actually enabling the victim's helplessness.
Oh.
By constantly jumping in to fix things.
Right.
They're preventing the victim from learning to stand up for themselves.
So it's like the victim stays dependent, the rescuer gets to feel good about being the hero.
Yeah, they get their need for significance met.
And then the persecutor has someone to blame and control.
It's a vicious cycle.
Oh, wow. And I guess, like, we all fall into these roles sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. No one is immune to the drama triangle.
Yeah.
But the key is to become aware of when we're playing those roles.
Okay.
And then start shifting towards healthier patterns.
All right. So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we break free from these drama roles?
Well, one of the best ways to do that is to actually look at examples.
Okay.
Draper shares these really insightful case studies.
Okay, so stories about real people.
Yeah, real people who have gotten stuck in these triangles.
Okay.
And it shows how those early experiences, those unmet needs, can shape these roles.
All right, give me a story. Who's our first drama triangle subject?
All right, so let's start with Mandy.
Okay, Mandy.
So Mandy grew up in a low-income family. Her mom went back to work when she was just a baby.
Okay.
And so she was cared for by various nannies.
So right away, there's like that potential for inconsistent care.
Right, and maybe a lack of secure attachment.
Yeah.
Which is so important in those early years.
Absolutely.
So as Mandy got older, she felt a lot of anger towards her parents.
For not being around.
For not being around, but she couldn't express it.
Why not?
Because she was afraid that if she did, she would be abandoned.
So she learned to kind of suppress her emotions.
Yes, exactly. And as a result, she developed this belief that she wasn't worthy of love and attention.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And to cope with that feeling,
Yeah.
she started taking on the persecutor role.
So it's like she flipped the script.
Yes, instead of being the one who felt abandoned, she became the one who pushed people away.
It gave her a sense of control,
Exactly.
even though it was ultimately like sabotaging her relationships.
Yeah, hurt people, right?
Right, exactly. So it's like she was trying to protect herself from getting hurt by hurting other people first.
Yes, and her younger sister often took on the victim role.
Oh, wow.
So it reinforced that dynamic.
Oh, so it was like this self-perpetuating cycle within the family.
It was.
So how did Mandy break free from this pattern?
Well, she met someone who just refused to play the game. Someone who offered her genuine love and understanding.
And that judgment.
Without judgment. And that allowed her to start healing those old wounds.
So she was able to finally let go of that persecutor role.
Yes, and experience true intimacy.
That's a beautiful example of how a healthy relationship can help us heal.
It is. It's like a mirror.
Yeah.
Reflecting back a different way of being.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. All right, case study number 2. Who's next?
All right, so let's meet John.
Okay, John.
John's story is a little different. He was actually showered with love by his parents,
Okay.
but they never set any boundaries
Interesting.
or disciplined him, even when he misbehaved.
So it's not a lack of love,
No,
but a lack of boundaries?
a lack of healthy boundaries, yeah.
That can be just as damaging, right?
It can, absolutely. So John learned that if he cried or acted upset, he would get attention and forgiveness,
No matter what.
no matter what he did.
So he basically learned to get his needs met through helplessness.
Yeah, through that victim role.
Right, but I'm guessing that didn't work so well for him once he got older.
No, it didn't. As John got older, this pattern started to backfire.
How so?
He felt misunderstood. He felt isolated.
Because people were getting tired of that victim role.
Exactly. They were pushing him away.
Right, so he had to find a different way to connect.
He did, eventually,
Okay, how did he do that?
through self-reflection and through learning about these models.
So he became aware of his own patterns.
Yes, and he started to understand the impact of that victim role.
Okay.
And he began to shift towards more assertive behavior.
So he started taking ownership of his feelings and actions.
Yes, instead of always blaming others.
Okay, good for John.
Yeah, he turned it around.
That's inspiring. Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. It seems like awareness is key.
Awareness is huge.
Right, like once we see those patterns, we can start to change them.
Absolutely.
All right, on to case study number 3. Who's next in our drama triangle lineup?
Okay, last but not least, we have Rachel.
Okay, Rachel, what's her story?
So Rachel's story is a bit more complex.
Go.
Her father left when she was young, and then her mother remarried,
Okay.
a man who was abusive to both her and the kids.
Oh, wow. That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, very traumatic environment. So to cope with all that,
Yeah.
Rachel took on the rescuer role.
Okay.
So she was constantly taking care of her younger siblings.
Oh, wow. So she became like the responsible one.
Yes, she had to grow up fast.
Right.
And while that gave her a sense of purpose,
Okay.
it also meant neglecting her own needs and emotions.
Oh, I see. It's like she learned that her feelings didn't matter.
Right, and that her role was to be strong for everyone else.
But that can't be sustainable in the long run, right?
No, it's not. And, while it might have been necessary for survival
Okay.
in that environment,
Right.
it became a problem later in life.
How so?
She struggled to set boundaries
Okay.
and prioritize her own well-being.
So even though she was coming from a good place, trying to help, it ultimately held her back
It did.
from experiencing true happiness.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And how did Rachel break free from this?
Well, eventually, she realized that she couldn't keep sacrificing herself for others.
Right.
She had to start putting herself first.
Yeah.
And so she sought professional help,
Okay. Therapy.
therapy, yeah,
Okay.
and she began to unravel those patterns.
That had been so ingrained in her
Exactly.
since childhood.
And through that process, she learned to express her emotions healthily, to set boundaries,
Okay.
and to stop enabling the dysfunction of others.
Wow. What a journey.
It is.
These are all such powerful stories, and I think they're so relatable.
I think so, too.
Like, I see pieces of myself in each of those examples. So, as listeners, what's the takeaway? Like, how can we use this knowledge about the drama triangle
Yes.
to improve our own relationships?
That's a great question. And it's one that we're going to dive into
Okay.
in the final part of this series.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
A little cliffhanger.
Okay, so until next time, I guess everyone should just keep those drama triangles in mind.
Yes, start paying attention to when you might be falling into those roles.
Right, awareness is the first step.
It is.
Okay, and then we'll come back and talk about how to actually create healthier dynamics.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So until next time, keep those drama triangles in mind.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye! All right, welcome back to our people analyzing journey.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have, from those body language leaks and those 6 human needs,
right,
to those sometimes dramatic ego states.
They can be.
And of course, all of that playing into Cartman's drama triangle.
Absolutely.
I feel like Mandy, John, and Rachel's stories really brought it to life.
They did. They were great examples.
It's just amazing how those early experiences and those unmet needs can really like play out in relationships later.
And sometimes sabotage our relationship.
Totally. But I think the point of all this, right, isn't to like label people.
Right.
Or to put them in a box.
No.
But it's more about just understanding those patterns so that we can like break free from them.
And create healthier dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we escape those drama roles and step into that winner's triangle you mentioned?
Okay, so the first step, and it's a crucial one, is awareness.
Okay, awareness.
Just simply recognizing those patterns in your own life is huge.
So it's like that aha moment when you're like mid-argument and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm totally being the persecutor right now.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so once you see it, then what?
Then you can start to shift it. Ask yourself, like, what need am I trying to meet by playing this role? Is there a healthier way to get that need met?
It's like holding up a mirror to yourself.
Yes.
Being like, oh, wow, I'm not showing up the way I want to show up.
Exactly.
Okay.
And sometimes that shift might involve, communicating more directly.
Okay.
Being more assertive, setting boundaries, learning to express your needs and emotions in a healthy way.
But that can be hard, right?
It can be challenging. Yeah.
Especially if you've been like stuck in those same patterns.
For years.
For years. It's like breaking a bad habit.
It is. It takes practice and patience.
But like you said, we have that winner's triangle to kind of guide us.
We do. We do.
Remind me what that looks like again.
So it's about moving from persecutor to assertive.
Okay.
From victim to vulnerable, and from rescuer to caring.
So those are like the healthy versions.
Yes.
Of those roles.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me like some real life examples of what that might look like?
Sure. So let's say you tend to fall into that rescuer role.
Okay.
Right. Instead of jumping in to fix everyone's problems.
Yeah.
You could try listening with empathy.
Okay.
Validating their feelings, but then asking them, well, what steps can you take to address this?
So it's like empowering them.
Exactly.
To find their own solutions.
Yes, rather than enabling their helplessness.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
What about if you're more prone to the victim role?
The victim role. Well, focus on becoming more assertive.
Okay.
Express your needs clearly.
Okay.
Own your mistakes and stop blaming others for your circumstances.
Yeah, basically like take responsibility for your own life.
Yes, exactly.
And your own happiness.
Yes.
Okay.
And then for those persecutors out there,
yeah, what about them?
practice vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, acknowledge your own flaws.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is.
Especially for persecutors.
Especially for persecutors. Listen to other people's perspectives and communicate your needs.
Okay.
Without attacking or blaming.
So it's like shifting from control to collaboration.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
And remember, we're all works in progress.
Right.
We'll mess up. We'll fall back into old patterns.
Totally.
But the key is just to keep practicing.
Keep learning.
Keep learning and keep moving towards those healthier dynamics.
This is good stuff.
It is, isn't it?
I feel like we've been given like a toolbox.
I love that analogy.
For building better relationships.
Yes, it's a toolkit for connection.
Totally. And remember, the whole point of this people analyzing thing isn't about manipulation.
Yeah.
It's about understanding so that we can connect better, so that we can communicate better.
Absolutely.
Speaking of understanding,
yes,
Draper ends his book with a really thought-provoking question.
Oh, love a good question.
I know, me too.
So what is it?
So he reminds us that past traumas can actually leave a mark on our brains.
Okay.
And they can affect our behavior even if we don't consciously remember them.
Right, those subconscious patterns.
Yeah, exactly. And then he asks, what seemingly irrational fear or behavior of yours might have a deeper root?
Wow, that's powerful.
Right.
It's like a challenge to really examine ourselves.
It is. So as you're going about your day, listeners, pay attention to those moments. When you feel triggered, when your reaction just seems, I don't know, out of proportion to the situation.
Yeah, there might be a hidden story there.
Yeah, like a past hurt.
That's shaping your present behavior.
Exactly. And by uncovering those deeper roots, we can start to heal and grow.
And create more authentic connections with ourselves and others.
That's beautiful.
It is.
I love that. Well, that is a fantastic way to wrap up this deep dive.
It is.
So listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this people analyzing journey.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've learned some valuable insights
We hope you feel empowered.
and feel inspired to continue exploring.
The complexities of human behavior.
Yes, because knowledge is power.
It is.
And by understanding ourselves and others better, we can create a more compassionate
Yes.
and connected and fulfilling world for everyone.
That's the goal.
Beautifully said. Until next time,
Bye for now.
keep learning and keep diving deep.